Hey, I'm Kristen Anderson. My pronouns are she, her. I am the area manager here at the Ashland branch of Jackson County Library Services. And I haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm a little rusty, but I wanted to do a quick rundown of some of the best of, like, this is the season for best of lists. So I wanted to do a rundown of some of the most circulated items in our collection this year, and also then maybe let you know what titles you might be able to get that are on the shelves, because some of these books are most circulated because they have long holds lists for them. The other thing to remember about most circulated lists is that they are items that we've owned for the better part of the year in most cases. So anything that came out in the fall, which is a big fiction release season, isn't going to be on this list. And it doesn't mean it's not a great book or a book worth reading, but it is an interesting data point to take every year. So I'm going to start with nonfiction. And our most circulating nonfiction book of the year was The Wager by David Grann. And that is a kind of seaborne adventure of like exploration and discovery. And David Grann is a name you might recognize because he also wrote Killers of the Flower Moon, which was made into a movie this year, which is another reason why this book was really popular. And actually the number 3 most circulating nonfiction title was Killers of the Flower Moon. So that's nonfiction. And then with teen, I was really interested to look at what our teen and our children's books are, because here you see the impact of series fiction and also, again, movies. So the most circulated teen book of the year was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. That's a prequel to the Hunger Games series. And the full list of all of our most circulating teen or YA fiction, you can find that on our website. And it is a lot of Hunger Games and Percy Jackson titles. So you see kind of those evergreen series that are really still popular with readers. And also we happen to own a lot of copies of those, so they don't get hold lists, so people can check them out whenever they find them on the shelf. In middle grade or children's fiction, you see the popularity of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Big Shot is the most circulating title of the year, but the most recent Wimpy Kid title, Wimpy Kid releases in November, so the most recent Wimpy Kid title doesn't have time to get on our most circulated list, right? So that is middle grade fiction. And again, you'll find all of these on our catalog list. I also wanted to talk about fiction specifically and give you some, fiction's my favorite, my happy space. So I wanted to give you some ideas of ways to find titles that you might find that might be read-alikes for the books that are on the most popular list. Lessons in Chemistry was our top circulating book of the year. That's by Bonnie Garmis. When you look at the cover, it reads like it must be a rom-com. Not exactly accurate. It's got some content that up front that is sexual assault, and there are people who I know who've read it and have been like really off put by that. So just be aware it's not a straight rom-com. It is historical though. And I thought, because you can't get this book right away because there's a holds list for it, that a book that you might like to read that we do have on the shelf if you're waiting for Lessons in Chemistry is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which also has kind of a 1950s Southern California vibe to it. Some humor, but also some kind of deep relationships and good fun. So that would be a good pairing. And then I thought about our second title, which is Demon Copperfield by Barbara Kingsolver, which is set in Appalachia and is a loose retelling of Charles Dickens' David Copperfield. And Demon Copperhead really deals with some pretty gritty content in terms of talking about the opioid epidemic and how it's affecting the folk in that region. A lot of people who work for JCLS had this on like one of their top favorite reads for the year. And actually, I was having a hard time thinking of a good read-alike. So what I'd suggest pairing it with, if you're waiting, go ahead and read David Copperfield. And compare the two when you do get your copy of Demon Copperhead in. Talking about both of those titles next to each other is very complicated, as it turns out. The third most circulated book is also, so both Demon Copperhead and The Covenant of Water were Oprah Book Club picks. So The Covenant of Water is by Abraham Verghese, and it is set on the Spice Coast of India over the course of like from the early 1900s into the 1970s. So you're looking at multi-generational story of a family that each generation, someone in the family drowns, and there's lots of water around in the Spice Coast. So it's kind of a really nice multi-generational story of a country that many of us don't have direct experience of, and has some really interesting layers, talking about kind of the caste system in India that makes it a really compelling read. And when I was trying to think about a read-alike for this, because this, again, you're not going to be able to check it out, although you might be able to get it on audio because it's daunting on audio. It's 30 hours long. So I would recommend trying The Old Drift by Namwali Serpell, which is, she's a Zambian author. This is not a super recent book, but within the last like 5 years. And it is also a multi-generational tale that has kind of layers dealing with the impact of colonialism, but also just a really interesting historical story of a place that many of us have not experienced directly. When I was trying to find good historical read-alikes for these books, I started by going to a site that I really love called NPR Books We Love. Every year they come up with a list of the best books that came out that year. There are all kinds of tags for the different lists. So you can say, oh, I want a book club read, or oh, I want a really short book, or oh, I want a really long book, or oh, I want this, or oh, I want that. Well, I thought, oh, I'll just go to the historical tab. But sadly, NPR Books We Love only has nonfiction on their for history lovers section, which made me sad because I am a big reader of historical fiction. But one of the books I saw there that, like, sitting here in Ashland, made me think that there might be some interest in our community on is a book called The Great White Bard, which is subtitled How to Love Shakespeare While Talking About Race. It's by Farah Karim-Cooper. And I thought that that might be one worth sharing. It is available on the shelf right now. You could check it out today if you wanted. And then I thought about other books that I just loved this year that are available on the shelf. And the one that came to the top for me was a book called Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, not a historical fiction, but one with lots of interesting, meaty discussion in it. It's about two authors who are friends. One of them is getting more attention than the other. The one who's getting more attention happens to be Asian, and the author dies suddenly, and her white friend steals her book and then sells it and publishes it, and kind of starts conveying the message that she might be Asian even though she is not. And it has lots of really interesting layers about how race and publishing works. And if you read a lot, or if you are interested about issues related to race, there's lots of elements to enjoy in that novel, and it's satirical, and I thought it was fantastic. So I wanted to wrap up also by saying, like, end of year lists are great. You can find all of them on our catalog. There's a tab called End of Year Lists that you will see from the catalog page that will get you to not only the New York Times notables, but some of our staff favorites and our most circulated titles. And I wanted to remind you that we're doing Rogue Reads right now. So read a book by Julia Alvarez, because she's going to be visiting and doing an author talk for us in the coming months. And you can find out more about that by checking out our event guide that you can find at any of our libraries. Thank you.